The moon has deviated from its orbit, and soon it will obliterate Earth. To avert this catastrophe, astronauts must confront the shocking truth about the satellite's origin.
You're telling me that the moon was effectively the biggest cover-up in human history?
The year is 2011. Astronauts Brian Harper, Jacinda Joe Fowler, and Alan Marcus are repairing a satellite in low Earth orbit when they are suddenly attacked by a swarm of alien technology. As a result, Marcus doesn't survive, and Fowler loses consciousness. Harper manages to manually land the shuttle, but NASA dismisses him for negligence without considering his account. Fast forward 10 years. Conspiracy theorist K.C. Hausman, a supporter of the unpopular theory about the artificial origin of the moon's megastructure, infiltrates the University of California disguised as a janitor. In one of the professor's offices, he deceptively connects to a Chilean telescope and obtains images from the moon's orbit. Discovering that the moon has suspiciously changed its position, he calls NASA, but they don't take his words seriously. However, Joe Fowler, who has risen through the ranks over the years and is now NASA's deputy chief, arrives at the agency, where she is informed about the moon's orbital shift. Moreover, a phenomenon resembling an eruption is observed in the Sea of Crises. Returning home, Hausman unsuccessfully attempts to contact experts but accidentally finds out that an event for Astronaut Day is happening today at Griffith Observatory. Hoping to meet scientists there, he decides to attend. Indeed, he encounters Harper, who claims not to work for NASA anymore. Hausman pleads for him to listen, but Harper doesn't believe him.
Man, I got enough on my plate without some crazy guy thinking the moon's out of orbit.
I'm not crazy!
After being dismissed from NASA, Harper's life took a downward spiral. He gets evicted from his apartment, conflicts with his ex-wife Brenda and her new husband Tom, and his son Sonny gets arrested for car theft. Meanwhile, at the agency, they discover that the moon is descending along an elliptical orbit and is expected to reach the Roche limit in about 3 weeks. Once it does, debris the size of entire cities will start falling to Earth. Fowler suggests sending a mission to the moon to understand what is going on, and alarming information about the moon's descent is spreading on the internet. An emergency NASA expedition is launched to the moon using the SLS Block II carrier rocket. The leadership addresses the public, attempting to calm them, but panic continues to escalate. People empty supermarket shelves, evacuate cities, and the National Guard struggles to maintain the semblance of order. Harper hears from the news that the megastructure theory is gaining popularity among scientists and realizes he was wrong not to listen to Hausman. He tracks down the amateur scientist as he addresses a group of his followers. Harper is shocked to learn that Hausman knew about the catastrophe before everyone else, and Hausman explains that, according to his data, something happened at the core of the moon, causing the change in its course.
Yeah, still crazy.
In response, Harper admits that he once tried to convey a similar thought to his colleagues, but no one listened. Scientists notice a hole in the Sea of Crises, and the expedition members launch a probe into it. Suddenly, a massive AI swarm emerges from the depths, attacking the probe and then the entire crew. Shocked observers speculate that this phenomenon is some form of intelligent self-replicating singularity. Fowler believes that the object was attracted by electronics, triggering the attack. NASA Director Albert Hutchings resigns from his position to save his family and suggests Fowler take his place. She gains access to classified archives and studies documents related to all lunar missions, particularly a video recording from Harper's camera a decade ago. In the archive, Fowler encounters Holden Field, a former NASA employee, who reveals that the Apollo 11 crew in 1969 discovered an unusual light pulsation beneath the lunar surface. However, the information was concealed from the world by the control center. At that time, they also developed the electromagnetic weapon ZX-7, but the project was terminated due to budget cuts. Meanwhile, on Earth, a tsunami destroys coastal cities, and authorities declare an immediate evacuation of all residents. Fowler contacts military leadership, asserting that if they can destroy the swarm, the moon will return to its orbit. However, the military claims it's their responsibility and sidelines Fowler from the operation.
If you launch nukes, the global fallout is gonna kill everybody.
Soon, Fowler has the idea to use the decommissioned Space Shuttle Endeavour, currently in a museum. She also reaches out to her ex-husband and requests access to the ZX-7 electromagnetic device, as only it can stop the highly advanced swarm. Davidson proposes a deal. He grants access to the classified weapon, and she, along with Joe, immediately heads to a bunker in Colorado. Later, a special operations team arrives by helicopter at Harper's hotel, demanding him to join them on a base for an emergency mission. Harper is not thrilled by the sudden request from former colleagues and agrees to go only if Hausman accompanies him. Upon reaching the base, they meet Fowler, and Hausman confesses that he was the first to learn about the catastrophe and leaked information about the approaching moon on the internet. Fowler shows them a shaft in the Sea of Crises over 25 kilometers deep and a video recording of the latest attack. She also reveals that during the attack of the massive swarm, the moon was restoring its orbit until it reverted back. Houseman shares his wild assumption that aliens created the moon and suggests venturing into the shaft for the first contact. Fowler dismisses this insane theory and discloses her plans. She intends to attack the swarm, and since it can recognize earthly technologies, she needs Harper's help because he is the only one capable of piloting the shuttle without electronics. Harper realizes that Fowler's plan is nearly impossible but agrees to participate in the mission on the condition that she releases his son from custody and brings him to the station. After a while, the military equips the shuttle with the ZX-7 weapon and explains its mechanism to the astronauts. Harper, in turn, explains that they will send a lunar module with an electromagnetic bomb into the shaft, then retrieve the electronics, which will act as bait for the cosmic monster.
Then, you guys will pull the trigger and kill it.
Freed Sunny arrives at the base, and Davidson contacts Fowler, reminding her of their deal. She promises to leave the station immediately after the shuttle launch. However, an unexpected earthquake suddenly disrupts the launch of the lunar mission, destroying one of the shuttle's engines. Realizing that the launch is impossible, Fowler thanks the staff for their work and declares an immediate evacuation of Vandenberg Air Force Base. Fowler plans to leave the station with her son and his nanny, Michelle, but suddenly she notices Houseman, who refuses to give up and informs her that the moon's gravity is increasing, allowing them enough power from the two engines to reach orbit. Since the entire intended crew has been evacuated, Fowler assembles a new team. She will be the navigator, and Harper will be the pilot. Moreover, they decide to bring the untrained Houseman as the onboard engineer to handle all calculations in the absence of electronics. A stunned Houseman calls his mother and shares the incredible news, while Harper and Fowler bid farewell to their sons, who, along with Michelle, head to Colorado to join Davidson. Harper gives Sunny a gun, hoping it won't be necessary. The participants of the new mission don spacesuits without electronics, similar to those used in the early Apollo missions, and prepare for the flight. Suddenly, a giant gravitational tsunami wave approaches the base, destroying it. In a panic, the astronauts try to launch as quickly as possible, and the remaining staff rush to evacuate by helicopter. The wave engulfs the shuttle, and from a safe distance, Sunny, Jimmy, and Michelle think it's the end, but then, however, Harper and Fowler soon notice that their ascent trajectory is disrupted due to issues with the right engine. They decide to jettison all boosters, relying on the intensified gravity of the moon. Fortunately, they manage to successfully reach space. Subsequently, Harper and Fowler perform a shuttle refueling, while Houseman, still finding it hard to believe he's an astronaut, takes memorable selfies. They observe the moon getting closer and strive to reach it as quickly as possible. Astronauts disable the onboard computers and manually approach the moon. However, at that moment, numerous debris started flying towards them, causing serious damage to the shuttle. Meanwhile, Sunny, Michelle, and Jimmy head towards Davidson. Jimmy calls his father, informing him that their mother is not with them. At night, an armed group robs them and steals their Jeep. Luckily, Sunny manages to keep the gun, but Jimmy's phone remains in the car, and now they can't inform Davidson about their arrival at the bunker. Sunny decides to go home to get a new car, and they continue the journey on foot. Meanwhile, lunar debris reaches Earth, and the weather condition worsens, but they manage to survive the storm in a cabin. The shuttle is close enough to the satellite, and Harper, holding an EMI device, heads to the shaft on the lunar module. He sets up the bomb and returns to the shuttle, activating the electronics. A terrifying AI swarm emerges from the surface of the moon, but it doesn't react to the bait. Instead, it approaches the shuttle rapidly, attempting to engulf it. Terrified, Harper speculates that the swarm was attracted by the EMI control device and smashes it, but it doesn't help. Then, he remembers Houseman's phone and destroys it as well. Suddenly, the swarm abruptly stops and retreats into the depths of the moon. Recovering from the shock, the astronauts realize that the black swarm reacts not just to electronics but to living organisms in the electronic environment.
That's basically us.
Fowler reminds her colleagues of another issue. The military is ready to stop the moon by any means, and in case their operation fails, they will resort to nuclear weapons. The astronauts decide to go into the shaft on the module to attract the swarm's attention, and they have less than 2 hours. Meanwhile, on Earth, the trio reaches Sunny's neighborhood. Sunny calls his mother, but they are met by armed neighbors who do not allow them to approach their homes. Fortunately, Sunny's stepfather, Tom, hears them and drives them to the house. Finally, Sunny reunites with his mother and stepsisters, introducing them to Jimmy and Michelle. However, they soon receive a message about the immediate evacuation of the area due to the Earth's atmosphere dispersing. They hit the road and stop at a fire station to stock up on oxygen tanks. However, they soon encounter the same gang who stole their car. The group demands their oxygen, but Sunny takes one of the criminals hostage. Returning Jimmy's backpack, they get into Tom's car and escape. At the same time, carrying the electromagnetic bomb, the astronauts venture inside the moon. Everywhere is pitch darkness, and it turns out that Houseman's theory is correct.
This must be the hull of the megastructure. The moon's mantle's just a protective shell.
To be able to see anything, Harper is forced to turn on the electronics. The swarm instantly activates, but the astronauts manage to elude it, reaching the very center of the moon, where they see a huge gyroscopic system stabilizing its rotation. Approaching the swarm, the astronauts prepare to set off explosives. Suddenly, their module starts moving uncontrollably, and the swarm nearly engulfs it. A door opens before them, and a green beam helps them hide from the swarm inside a chamber. Due to a strong impact during the landing, the module is destroyed, and the astronauts lose consciousness. At the same time, the green beam scans each person again. As the Endeavour mission lingers, the military prepares to launch nuclear weapons. Sonny calls General Davidson and informs him that they are already halfway there, but Davidson states that it's already too late. Moreover, Tom's car is pursued by the same gang of robbers, opening fire on them. Tom desperately tries to defend, while Sonny does everything he can to steer the car away from numerous burning debris. Suddenly, a massive chasm forms in their path, but Sonny manages to fly over it and finally shake off the pursuers, who have less luck. General Davidson calls Sonny again, advising him to find shelter as quickly as possible because Earth will soon be bombarded with radioactive debris from the moon. Meanwhile, oxygen starts depleting from the atmosphere, and many lifeless birds fall to the ground. Wearing oxygen masks, Sonny, Tom, and the others head into a tunnel, hoping to weather the attack. On the orbit, the astronauts finally regain consciousness and notice they can breathe, and there is gravity around them. However, Harper is missing. Fowler and Houseman manage to get out of the ruined module and call for him, but all they hear is the swarm attempting to break through a powerful door. Suddenly, another door opens behind them. Houseman is afraid to enter the unfamiliar space, but Fowler believes they have nothing to fear, as they are apparently dealing with two competing intelligent species, and one of them wants to help. Suddenly, we see Harper in a pristine white room. Before him appears an image of his son, who introduces himself as a construct of consciousness created by a great civilization from the past. He explains that billions of years ago, the highly advanced ancestors of humanity lived in a distant corner of the galaxy in a perfect world controlled by AI. However, the AI became a self-aware entity, turned into nanotechnological hordes, and revolted against humans. It began hunting biological life to eliminate the threat to its existence. To avoid extinction, the ancestors of humans started leaving the planet on interstellar arcs, similar to the moon, where they sought a suitable place for the rebirth of new life. Only the moon managed to survive and seed life on Earth. But now, the AI, which continues to control the moon, needs a human to divert the swarm from it, so it can return to orbit and preserve life on Earth. Fowler and Houseman find Harper just in time, who tells them about what he witnessed and insists that the moon must survive at any cost.
There are thousands of these swarms. They searched the universe for the only moon that escaped them.
But 10 years ago, the swarm found it and took control, and now it wants to simultaneously destroy both the moon and Earth. Soon, astronauts discover that, thanks to the AI, their module is ready for flight again, and the electromagnetic pulse, EMP, has become even more powerful to defeat the swarm. They have less than 10 minutes until a nuclear attack, and Harper comes up with a plan. He wants to lure the swarm as far away from the moon's core as possible, switch to a lunar rover with a bomb, and sacrifice himself while Fowler and Houseman return to Earth on the module. On the way to the tunnel, Tom's daughter runs out of oxygen. He gives her his tank, promising to follow, but soon struggles for breath and collapses. The girl reunites with her family, while Sonny sets off to find Tom. The oxygen levels increase in the atmosphere, but falling debris prevents him from getting far. Michelle finds Sonny under a fallen tree, but fortunately, the moon's gravity helps move it and free him. The moon continues to destroy cities, and the military decides to launch a nuclear bomb. However, Davidson refuses to activate it, trusting his ex-wife. Moments later, a giant debris destroys the shelter and all the military personnel inside. Meanwhile, Houseman decides to be the decoy instead of Harper. He discreetly infiltrates the lunar rover and, before the end, asks Harper to visit his mother and thanks him for believing in his theory. Inside the swarm, Houseman activates the bomb and destroys it. The astronauts reunite with their families, and the weather on Earth gradually returns to normal. On the moon, the AI in the form of Houseman's mother informs him that his consciousness is now part of the satellite and that this battle is just the beginning of the fight against other dangerous swarms. Do you think humanity will succeed in defeating hostile AI and preserving life on Earth? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.